Welcome to this presentation for EDT 504. This is the final presentation for the semester, in which we will talk about all the things that you need to do between now and the end of the semester and what materials need to be submitted to me with your team project at the end of the semester. The objectives for the presentation are to talk about the materials that your team needs to assemble and submit as a single zipped up package of stuff. Also talk about the tryout session requirements for testing out your software and the report that you'll produce as a result of that tryout. Looking at what needs to be submitted to me with your final version of your team project at the end of the semester. It's going to be all the material will be submitted electronically. Ideally, your team should put all of the required materials into a zipped up folder that you can then either upload to a discussion forum that I'll have on the Blackboard site for submitting final project materials, or if your materials are too big, especially if your team is using videos, for example, and Blackboard has a limit on how much you can upload, then your team will need to find another way to get that material to me. A public Dropbox folder is a nice way to go. You can send me the link to download the materials, for example. If you are reaching the end of the semester and your team's not sure how you're going to get the stuff to me, you can send me an email and we will work together to find out the best way to get it submitted. What needs to be included in the final set of materials? Well, you need to include a fully functioning published version of your team's lesson. If you're using Captivate, please submit that lesson as the combination of SWF and HTML files, like we've been doing for Captivate lessons throughout the semester. If your team has decided to publish it out as HTML5, that's fine as well. You just need to make sure that all of the many associated files are all in the same folder so that they will function. If your team is using some other software for your lesson, you need to let me know so that I can make sure that you get me the appropriate published files so that I can view the project and other members of the class can view it. In addition to the main tutorial published project, you need to be sure to submit also any associated data files that go with your project. The most common form of these files are videos. For example, if your team is using Captivate, it's likely that you have external videos that are being shown inside your Captivate project but are not actually embedded in the project, so you need to make sure that those videos come with your submission. In addition to the software itself, I want your team to include a copy of the final design specifications document, which I've received before, but I'm trying to assemble a single package of everything your team has done. And a couple of new things. Your team needs to submit a teacher or trainer handout, which I'm going to describe in just a moment. And your team needs to submit its tryout report. So let's talk a little bit about both the handout and the tryout report. First, looking at the requirements for the teacher trainer handout. The idea is you need to produce a short document that would be handed off to a teacher or a trainer who is going to implement your lesson to help them understand the purpose of the lesson, what's the sort of main thing that's happening in the lesson, and how to run it. All right, so here are the requirements that should be in this handout. It should, of course, have the title of your program, a brief overview of the purpose of the program, a statement of the background of the program, basically your instructional problem statement from your proposal and design specs, description of your intended target audience and intended instructional setting for the lesson. So you'll see so far all of this looks like what you produced in both your proposal and your design specifications. Same material, you might be able to condense it down a bit, with the idea being that this isn't going to somebody who needs to hire your team to produce the material, but to somebody who needs to use it in the class. Some more requirements for that teacher trainer handout. You need to include a very short content outline, essentially what happens in your program. You should include some directions on how to use the program. If it's something that needs to be run on the desktop, you need to explain how to make that happen. If it's something that runs online, you need to explain how to make that happen. You need to have a statement of hardware or software requirements to run the program. And then you can include any other advice you would like to provide for the teacher or trainer who would be implementing your project. On the course Blackboard site, I have uploaded some examples of these teacher trainer handouts that have been produced in previous semesters in 504 in the team projects folder. So I encourage you, as your team goes to create your handout, to look at examples that I've got up from the past. Turning now to the tryout session and the report. For your tryout, you need to have a minimum of 4 representative learners. Of course, more learners is better than few, but at least 4. In the report, what you're going to want to include, and this will help guide how you run your session, the report needs to include, of course, the title of your program, the the grade or age of the participants who did the tryout, what the major goals were for your team in conducting the tryout, whether they were mostly focused on seeing if the program worked and if the learners were engaged with the program, and or if you were looking at how well the program helped your learners reach the learning objectives of the program. You need to describe those goals in the tryout report. You need to include a short program description, including the objectives and what materials were used in the tryout. Then you need to have a description of what occurred at the tryout. Who were the participants? What was the process you went through to implement your program with those participants? What were the data sources that you used in order to collect information about user engagement and how well they liked the software, whether it worked well for them, and if you are going to examine learning, what sort of measures did you use to find out about how well they learned? And you need to describe how you then went about collecting that data. Then you need to have a results section where you talk about participant reactions and or learning outcomes. You should include summary tables that show the data that you collected. You should include, as part of your report, the actual questions that you asked, either for engagement and or for learning. And then you should have a section on suggested revisions to the program based upon what you saw in the tryout. Your team isn't required to do any of those revisions, but this is more of a statement of what you think you would do in the future to make your program stronger based upon what you saw in the tryout session. All right, so that's it. On the Blackboard site in the Team Projects folder, I also have uploaded some examples of tryout reports that teams have done in the past in 504. Please take a look at those examples before your team goes to implement your software so that you can get an idea of what other people have done in the past and that you can use that as a model. So what are we doing now? Here's what's left to do between now and the end of the semester. You need to gather and prepare all of the final materials for your project. You need to, of course, wrap up development of your project very soon. Then you need to conduct your tryout session and write up the results all before the last class for the end of the semester. And then you need to submit all those final project materials, including the tryout report. You can do so by having one member of your team attach that zipped set of documents to the final project submission discussion forum, or if you are concerned that the project materials are too big, so that they're not going to be able to be uploaded to Blackboard, then you can send me a link or include a link in the final project submission discussion forum where I can go and download all of those materials. And last but not least, when you are asked, as you will be quite soon, please complete a course evaluation for EDT 504. I'm always very happy to get feedback on the course, what you liked, what you think could be done to make the class better for future students. So that's it. Any questions that you and your team have as you're going through all of this, please feel free to write me email. And we're almost there. Hang in there, and good luck.